where we delve into the issues and solutions that are facing the region and the world in terms of its journey towards net zero. And we're looking very much this year at this all through the lens of our journey towards the next international congregation, which is going to be COP27 here in the Middle East, in our region, and taking a bit of a micro look into what companies and governments and individuals are doing towards at least meeting the goals for the next 12 months, let alone 2030 or beyond. Today, we're going to be talking about the circular economy in that context, and the viable pathways to that, and what progress countries are making and companies are making on that front. And I'm delighted to be joined by our two guests today. And for the first time joining us is Viridiana Bello, who is sustainability consultant at Apodea in Argentina. So very nice to have you on the program. It's your first time. Welcome. And also we're being joined by Caterina Serrada, founder of the SDG Hub, the Center for Sustainable Economies and Innovation, based in Milan, I believe, Italy. So thank you, Caterina, for joining us. Thank you, ladies. We have an all-ladies panel, which is extremely unusual, but needs to happen more often, I would say. So welcome and look forward to your thoughts. And as we do every week, we have a selection there of headlines, news headlines on the topic of the day, the circular economy. I hope that you've both perhaps had a chance to look at those. Caterina, I'll start with you, and if you can just let us know if any one of those caught your attention.
Yeah, thank you so much for this nice lineup of the articles. I have picked up the second one, the circular economy drives all industries forward. It's a really nice text, nice example of how circular economy can be applied. And in this case, which is the case of the space industry, is quite a necessity, because we are talking about the complex goods, rare materials in use. And of course, the scarcity of these materials and resources is obvious and evident. So most of the industries which will be developing their products in the future will be orienting themselves towards circular design, towards greater efficiency of the materials they are using, and towards also making the resource in use more the longest possible. Especially given the fact that upstream requirements for the value chains are increasing day by day. It's energy, it's water, it's minerals, it's rare materials and resources. So the idea of the waste prevention is not the only idea which is driving the companies. Of course, it's a scarcity of the resources by itself, and of course, it's the quality of the resources in use. So we have several drivers in industries which are, let's say, demand from the industries to target the circular economy business models. First of all, which I would like to focus on, is actually corporate innovation. We often talk about eco-efficiency, environmental impact, of course, and this is somehow the consequence of the corporate innovation. It's the purpose, and at the same time, it's a consequence. Transiting to the circular economy requires to innovate, not requires, but actually allows the companies to innovate on several levels. On upstream level, where I was already mentioning, to increase the resource efficiency, eco-efficiency of the company, to prevent waste, but also to innovate the business model itself, to rethink how we design the product and how we deliver the value of the product to the consumers, which is in the circular economy in the context of the consumer goods, basically changing the status from the consumer to the user. Because what is important in circular economy is the function of the good that is used by the consumer or the buyer or the user. So it's not so much to buy the product, consume and throw it away. It's rather to receive the use function of the product and then to be circulated in the economy through the different business models, which is resource sharing, which is reusing, which is remanufacturing. So the circular economy has a great potential for specifically in the consumer goods industry.
Yeah,
but also,
absolutely. And Caterina, I'll just follow up with you with a couple of things there. I mean, you set the scene nicely for us. Of course, we all know what that we should be implementing more circular economy measures. We all know what the environmental reasons are behind that, but let's talk a bit about companies, like you said, changing their business models and the bottom line. I mean, at the end of the day, companies are in in business for business and to make money, and they're not non-for-profit. So how much progress do you think this way of thinking, this cultural way of thinking of, yes, we need to integrate circular economy fully into our business model, not just as an afterthought? Would you say that has picked up a bit more in the last year or two with all the energy transition impetus that we've had during COVID, post-COVID? Where are we on that journey, and has the message got through?
Definitely, especially in Europe. In the last years, we had been evidencing the significant policy landscape shifts, which have been connected to the focus of the European Union on decreasing the emissions in the value chains. And of course, talking about the value chains, we're talking about the model of the resource model, how we use the resource along the supply chain. So circular economy is assuming a different resource model, not a linear, but a circular, which is requiring the coordination between different stakeholders and the partners. So in order to activate the circular economy, European Union has been focusing on 7 impactful value chains, including textile, plastic, nutrients, ICT, everything that is producing great environmental impact. So, and of course, focusing on the whole ecosystem, on the whole value chain in these sectors is actually creating quite a dynamic on the whole market through the regulations. So in Europe, I would say that the competitiveness was not really realized, the competitiveness of the circular economy, even though that Europe is a resource poor region. We basically import everything from outside. Italy is one of the most resource dependent countries. Still, the reasoning on competitiveness aspect was not so much integrated into the business model. But now I think that the reason for that is that 85% of European businesses are small businesses. For them to innovate, to build the ecosystem, that because they, the companies have been performing the single stand model. They were trying to produce within, and so there was not so much coordination in Europe. I would say that the value chains which have been situated in Europe, they are more or less composed by with the small enterprises. So to change the mindset of the small enterprise, to find the financing for that is quite difficult. But European Union is also trying to solve this problem for creating financial incentives, tax incentives. So policy takes quite a big stand in the whole issue. And without proper policies, it's difficult, of course, to innovate the whole sector.
Of course. And I mean, and just to stop you there, and policy, Europe has been ahead on policy in terms of the general sort of energy transition, the green journey, certainly far ahead of other regions, including the one that I'm sitting in, the Middle East. Viri, I'd like to go to you. Welcome again, and ask you, maybe you'd like to pick up on one or two of the comments that Katerina made, but again, back to the bulletin headline, seeing if any of those grabbed your attention and why.
Well, I think the number 8, that the circular economy has a critical role in climate action, because most of the time we are focusing just in energy transition, but according to the World Economic Forum, just to do this transition, it appoints the 55% of the emissions. The remaining emissions that we produce comes from what we produce, what we consume. So basically, I think that we have to change our mindset, how we are consuming the things, and how we are producing and how we are designing the packaging. I think in the last year, a lot of companies that are focusing in that, what are the raw materials, how they can improve, how they can reduce the amount of plastic, because sometimes they focus just to recycle. And that is not the solution. There is another points of the circular economy that we need to focus, for example, the redesign of the product, because all the products are designed just to make, use, and throw away. And after that, we don't have any idea where they are thrown away. The landfill, if you ask a person where is the landfill, they don't know. They just put the waste and you forgot. So you have the disconnection about how you can do your impact in the environment. So I think it's important to make more program of awareness how is our impact on the waste, because The amount of waste that we have
Can you tell us,
producing right now is a lot.
Okay, of course, an incredible amount of waste. Can you pinpoint a best practice anywhere, whether it's in Argentina or in another country or region, where we really are seeing an example of best practice of how we're, deploying technology to the way of a new way of looking of how we make the product and therefore how it can be reused or recycled? Give us an example of where that's being successful.
Well, I'm from Mexico, so we have a company that make tequila. So there is a lady that she took the circular economy on that, because all the raw material is just waste. So now she is using the agave, that is the cactus, and she's producing for plastic. So it's a bioplastic. Now they are selling like straws, glass, plates. So she's doing this partnership with a small companies, so you can have different packagings with this that was a waste. Now is a product, no?
Also, which is fantastic, and I'm sure there's so many innovative ideas that can be done on that front, and technologies that are out there already that can be used. What about the cost of that, Viri? The cost to business, the sort of lead time that businesses need to kind of make the commitment. Well, this may mean that I'm going to incur more costs, or I'm going to maybe make more money at one point. Where is the thinking there, the mindset within businesses these days? Katerina was mentioning how Europe has a lot of small to medium businesses, and so obviously they're more vulnerable, you could argue, to making these changes. Is the economic case there?
Yes, I think we need to, when you create the business value. So, for example, we have consumers that they want to pay a little more to avoid this environmental impact. So we need to give them the chance to have this product. So when you are a business, sometimes the businessmen think that in profit, and that is so difficult to implement the circular economy procedures. But if we do this analyze and we do this change of mindset, you can start as a business, you can start with a minimal change, because you don't have to have a lot amount of money to do the complete change, no? With the small steps, you can do it, and then start to do like, okay, the next year, what can I do to improve my circular economy practices? So I think there is a great opportunity for all the business to think now, because we have a change of mindset with the pandemic. The people are asking what is happening with the world, with the environment. So there is more increase of awareness that we need sustainable products. So I think there is, we need to broke the loop, like no, the consumer doesn't want to pay, and because I'm consumer, I don't have the option. The blame is from the company, or I blame the government.
Do we need more government funding for these initiatives? I mean, a lot of from a policy point of view, from a subsidy point of view, do we need at this initial period more support from governments to help businesses get on the right path?
Yes. I have lived into different places. For example, I came from Latin America. You don't have the support of the governance. So the companies are doing the best that they can, and they are doing good initiatives. And also I have lived in Emirates, and in Emirates, you have the support of the company, the support of the policy makers. So it's easier, no? But in Latin America, there is a lot of options that I have created, and you don't need the governance. The companies are pushing the governments to implement new policies. So that we need is someone do this leadership to make the change.
Katerina, just talking about the region and where I am, and I don't know how well you know it, but let's talk a little bit about the energy sector to an extent, and how it is reusing its resources in terms of waste, in terms of using CO2 injection, etc. We won't get too technical on this, but do you think as a whole the energy sector globally even is making enough effort to incorporate circular systems within its processes, if you like? And plastics, of course, being one of those huge ones downstream that, we're not going to get rid of plastics because the world is too reliant on them. What do we do about this huge problem?
Well, in energy transition and the whole energy issue in Europe is shaking the whole media and policy landscape now. Maybe you heard that now, according to European taxonomy, nuclear energy is about to be included in renewable resources. So new technology, they pop up, they shake a little bit the investment policies and so on. So it's not really clear properly where we are moving. From one point of view, renewables for the moment, they do not reach the capacity for the industrial production, which would allow Europe to be energy independent. So gas still is a part of the solution. Where the gas is coming from outside. It's coming from Russian Federation and so on. So European Union has introduced international cooperation initiatives such as Circular Economy Alliance in order to create a leverage playing field and to incentivize the private sector abroad as well to change. It's not easy. That you have been mentioning subsidies. Who can pay subsidies? Subsidies can be paid by the government who has the money. Developing world, which is supplying the commodities and resources, they normally do not have the money for the subsidies. So the whole transformation.
So partnership and collaboration, that's one way, obviously, to make this all more affordable. Where are we on that front? Are there very clear models where that makes sense?
Definitely, the circular economy requires partnership. It's not an option, because in order for us to innovate across the economy and to provide the value in a different way, we have to create the collaboration. Because the waste for one company, which doesn't want to deal with this waste, can be resource for the other. So, of course, they have to be matched, they have to be connected, they have to be provided the mutual exchange of information. European Union, in this sense, has created a separate data space for that, in order to provide the business sector with the opportunity to cooperate between them, in order to create certain applications for the exchange of the industrial data, and also to create the market for industrial services. So there are big moves, big shifts in all the domains in order to activate circular economy, because the European Union is targeting fully circular economy by 2050. It's not so much time left. Energy is a big issue, has a big stake in the whole issue. It's about the producing goods. It's about the goods which are coming from outside, because of course they have to be more or less the same conditions. And collaborations are needed. I would say that Circular Economy Alliance, this recent initiative, has been joined by many countries, but still the energy producing countries are not so much there. Also because it's under the wing of the VWTO, and we know that historically VWTO has never been a forum for solving energy issues. But when it comes to the renewables and for the consumption of the renewables by households, I would say that there is a big shift in Europe. It comes to the point of creating energy cooperatives, sharing the energy between the communities where people live. So there are big things moving. Also, the role of hydrogen in the industrial applications as well, in the transport, is increasing considerably. And this is happening just within last 1.5 years. So
there are a lot of, obviously, hydrogen, as you said, has been a big buzzword the last year or two. A lot of new commitments of projects and partnerships here in the region. Many initiatives being taken on that front. Obviously, those are sort of 10-year solutions down the road, 10, 15, for whether it's blue or green. Blue hydrogen is now, green hydrogen in 10 years' time might be cost effective. But Viri, I'll go back to this question of how do we initiate or encourage the sort of cultural behavior to change, whether it's with consumers, users, or with industries, and is there more incentive needed? I mean, Katerina just mentioned the VWTO. Viri, are there any international fora that are pushing this particular thing of circular economy enough? I mean, not just to integrate it into part of COP27 or part of these big forums, but do we need more international cooperation, Viri, on that front?
Definitely, we do need, and
the question was to Viri.
Pardon.
Yes, okay. Yes, Diana.
Yes, I think we need to focus in the local. We need to focus in the cultural behavior of our local community. And one thing that I noticed is like we have the information. We have all this information with the World Economic Forum, the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, in all these summits about the new technology, but we have to deliver the information digestible to the consumer, easy to understand, because we are persons, we have a lot of things to deal every day. So I think if we just do a small campaign that we explain what is the impact, for example, what is the amount of water that you are consuming right now. If you ask, there is a lot of consumers that don't know. So that is the good thing for the digital disruption now, that if we are connected with all these applications.
All these tools, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
For example, with the DIGWA, if you have this leaking, they send you a message.
Yes,
and that
absolutely.
is so amazing because you
and
are
I've had
aware
that
of that
myself, and it's a warning because you're not aware when you have a leak until you receive your bill. But absolutely, you said. I mean, you're talking about. Let's talk a bit about sort of digital technology and how that enables us to read, live, real-time data and be able to even act, as we're performing on a daily basis. It's not just about taking huge measures as businesses. Do you think, Viri, that, I mean, you said you've been in the Middle East here. Let's talk a bit about the region. As you said, DIWA does this. That's the electricity authority here in the Emirates. Is that sinking in? I mean, again, come back to cost. I mean, I've been offered by DIWA here to put solar panels on my roof at a certain cost, etc. It would take me 5 years to pay off that cost if I compare it to my current electricity bill. Okay, so just taking that as an example around the world, again, do consumers need more help to get on this train from the government? Do we need more incentives there?
Yes, because for example, the reality of Emirates is different. They have the money, they are able to pay that. But for example, if you go to Latin America or you go to Europe, the UK, that now they need to ban the gas boiler to shift to heat pumps. The heat pumps is around £8,000. So how do you expect just the heat pump and then the installation? No, how do you expect that the people want to shift to this new technology, green technology, if they don't have the amount of money? Yes, they need help also. So it's part.
So I suppose it's about controlling demand, trying to make people more aware of their consumption,
yes.
and trying to sort of look at it on that front. Katerina, just to go back to sort of waste management, that's a huge. Sorry, we got you there. Yeah, a huge, obviously, an obvious problem to tackle, and there is certain amount of waste recycling, as we all know. You could argue that's one of the oldest recycling circular economy sort of processes that we're all aware of. But again, I mean, what is the next sort of technology or next solution that we need to push that forward?
So basically, when we speak about the transition period, we need better sorting technologies in recycling, because for the moment, what we have in plastics, we have different polymers which are combined, and often they are not possible to recycle. We have different combination of the materials, like companies. For the transition period, they start doing a lot of greenwashing. I will not be mentioning the companies now, the big brands. But what they do, they announce that they are on the way to change the packaging, and then they start introducing the carton inside. There is a thin liner of plastic. Then you cannot recycle it, So what is needed in European Union is actually paying for these initiatives. I'm also participating in a grant funding for several plans. It's a better recycling and sorting out technology which allow, with the use of artificial intelligence and other techniques, to separate the complex materials one from each other. Of course, when it comes to the composition of the material, it becomes even more complex. But in the long run, the role of the technology, like for example, blockchain, digital passport for the product, which will contain most of the information, it would also in the long run allow to transit to cleaner chemical composition, and also to advance circular economy in place itself. So the changes are on the way. In Europe, there are many projects which are focused on the circular economy solutions for waste. not only for the waste of the plastic which is still in the economy, but also those plastic which has been landfilled. So also to open those landfills, and money is here as well. So the technology is here. By the way, for those who is interested, you can go to WIPO website and see that there is also a good track of the emerging applications registered in intellectual property sphere. So we see that gradually we are moving in the direction, but of course, not without the help of European Union as a policy-making body. For sure, policy-making is fundamental to activate circular economy. This is no doubt.
And our businesses using all the technologies out there. I mean, we've talked about AI and smart systems, and that's helping individuals, consumers. It can be also put into buildings and put into industrial processes. That's all there and available and getting more affordable every day. Would you say businesses are making maximum use of what's out there right now?
I would say when we talk about the maximum, it's not there, of course, but I think we are on the right track. We could be faster, but for example, the new regulations of European Union, which, for example, increase the recycling content in the product, they help a lot, because in this case, it becomes a business imperative, and you have to innovate, you have to collaborate, you have to match your business interest with a public purpose and to find the right partner for you. I've been working as a digital circular economy research analyst with this private sector in Italy, and collaborated with the several companies for whom we will be developing the platforms in order to match them in the circular economy business model, such as industrial symbiosis, for industrial waste, for transforming the utilities, especially when we could talk about the circular economy, water management, like to clean industrial waters.
Huge.
Definitely the interest is here. Food sector is also up to changes in Italy, because there is a potential, there is a request for that. During the COVID time, the request for the sustainable food has been increasing in the whole world. So it also constitutes a big part of the Italian exports. So of course, these, let's say, external drivers like consumer demand, which is here, the European Union support, which is here, and also this huge green plan recovery money from Italy itself, they are helping to change. Italy has been announced by The Economist in December 2021 as one of the, not the most innovative, but the economy that has been demonstrating the most innovative, the rate of change was the highest. It was coming mainly to the point of digitalization of the small businesses, which of course will help to create a circular economy ecosystem, which requires this exchange of information and coordination of the resources also on the local level, as rightfully has been said by the previous speaker.
Right. And thank you, Katerina. And Viviana, we'll give you the last word. I mean, in terms of, if you can do a comparison for us of whether you would expect developed economies and developing economies to be sort of expected to move on similar tracks, you know, in that sense of speed to with these initiatives. I mean, is there an advantage for a developing economy on this front? It doesn't have perhaps all the established old processes for industrial production and even consumer behavior. Is there an advantage for developing economies to get ahead of the game on this front, or to be naturally forced into being more aware and implementing circular economy principles more?
Well, for the developing countries, I think there is opportunity, because there are a lot of solutions that are creating. The only thing is like how to gain investors, because there are good solutions, for example, hydrogen cells, recycling materials, and sometimes they don't escalate the industrial levels because they don't have the enough investors. So one thing that I noticed that we need to be the link sometimes between countries, because there is a hub in Colombia that they came from the UK and they are investing for this solution to be escalated, because that's something that I noticed, that we have already the solutions, but we don't know. There are in other countries, and if you don't know this person, we don't have this bridge between the problem and the solution. So
This
I
is
think
this is the point that we were making about awareness, and if the solution already exists elsewhere, you know, a country should not be wasting its time trying to recreate what's already available, and that really takes cooperation on the international level. I mean, it can be individual, you can get individual businesses reaching out to others, but it strikes me that we need an international body that's really going to push this this particular agenda forward, and as you said, to make everyone aware that the technologies are out there. One more question to you, Viri, before we go. If on your wish list of #1 priority next, what would you say would be the next big step to pushing the circular economy drive forward?
to redesign the product.
Redesign the product. And Katerina, we'll get you back on screen. You don't have to go off screen. You can stay with us all the time. Katerina, your #1 on your wish list for the next step to really pushing the circular economy forward, what would it be?
To scale up cooperation, definitely we need the partnerships even in design, because in our disassembled value chains, even design is not within the same company. We need collaboration, we need information, we need awareness, we need the whole ecosystem working for the common purpose.
Well, thank you very much to Katerina Serrada and to Verdiana Bello for joining us today. It went too fast as usual. Thank you, ladies, for joining us from across Europe and South America, and we hope to see you soon, and thank you to our viewers also. All the best.
Thank you so much for inviting.